A disaster of unimaginable proportions is looming, far worse than any war. Many things will disappear, and this will be one of the signs. Get ready to face days of total darkness, which are very close. During this period, you will be as good as dead, without food or drink. Padre Pio, a renowned 20th century saint, was an Italian priest of the Capuchin order, famous for his mystical abilities and predictions. He documented some of these predictions and passed on others orally. One of his best-known predictions talks about 3 days of total darkness, causing great fear in many people. This prophecy continues to be widely debated to this day. Along with others he made suggesting that they would happen soon. However, no prediction was as surprising as the one made for the year 2025, something so significant that it left the world in a state of shock. Now, let's delve into the enigmatic and frightening predictions Padre Pio made for 2025. If you believe in God and admire Padre Pio, subscribe to the channel now. Francesco Forgione, who would later be known as Padre Pio, was born on May 25, 1887, in Pietrelcina. According to the diary entries of Father Agostino de San Marco, his future spiritual director, Francesco faced several childhood illnesses, including severe gastroenteritis at the age of 6 and typhoid fever at the age of 10. Despite these illnesses, from an early age Francesco began to experience divine visions and spiritual ecstasies, which further increased his desire to dedicate his life to religion. During prayers, Friar Pio often seemed distant, completely absorbed. A contemporary friar reported seeing him in ecstasy, levitating above the ground. As a priest, Padre Pio gained renown for converting countless people to Catholicism and for his special dedication to the Rosary. He compared the practice of weekly confession to regularly cleaning a room, emphasizing the importance of keeping the soul pure. Padre Pio advised his followers to meditate and carry out a self-examination twice a day. In the morning, to prepare for daily challenges, and in the evening, to reflect on their actions. His theological advice was often summed up in the striking phrase, "Pray, wait, and don't worry," highlighting the importance of putting God's will above all else. In September 1918, Padre Pio began to show stigmata on his hands and feet, similar to the wounds of Christ. In the following months, his fame as a holy figure grew exponentially in San Giovanni Rotondo, attracting hundreds of devotees to the monastery every day to witness his presence. For many who faced the adversities of war, Padre Pio became a symbol of hope and spiritual renewal. Those closest to him observed the development of various spiritual gifts, including the ability to heal, perform miracles, an extraordinary abstinence from sleep and food, the ability to understand hearts, fluency in several languages, the power to convert people, and the presence of wounds that exuded a pleasant fragrance. His supernatural experiences also included visions of heavenly figures, communications with angels, and even physical confrontations with Satan and demons. These extraordinary accounts contributed to Padre Pio's growing fame and admiration. His reputation transcended his local community, establishing him as a spiritual guide of great influence. He formulated 5 essential principles for spiritual growth, helping his followers to follow a path of faith and devotion. In his correspondence, Padre Pio revealed that, from the beginning of his priesthood, he experienced marks on his body, pain and bleeding in areas that later manifested themselves as stigmata, although initially they were not visible. These phenomena began to intensify during his novitiate, between 1903 and 1904, when he began to have visions and confirmed the presence of the stigmata. Padre Pio shared that these phenomena disturbed him deeply, to the point where he begged God to remove the visible marks, although he didn't want the pain to disappear. For him, the wounds represented an extreme and almost unbearable humiliation. On September 20th, 1918, while hearing confessions, he again felt the marks of the stigmata on his body. Reports say that the blood from these wounds exuded a scent of flowers or fragrance, a phenomenon that increased the mysticism around him. Feeling embarrassed by these marks, Padre Pio often wore red gloves or black coverings on his hands and feet. These measures were an attempt to hide the wounds from prying eyes and to maintain a minimum of privacy and dignity. The wounds, although painful and humiliating, were for Padre Pio a symbol of his deep faith and his desire to share, in some way, in Christ's suffering. These extraordinary experiences not only increased his fame, but also deepened the reverence and respect that many devotees had for him. Padre Pio became an emblematic figure of holiness and sacrifice, whose life was marked by an intense spiritual commitment and a constant search for a deeper union with God. A few weeks before receiving the stigmata, in August 1918, Padre Pio had an intense mystical experience, during which he felt as if he were being physically pierced and burned. This episode began on August 5th and was interpreted by his spiritual guide, Father Benedetto, as a transverberation, a mystical phenomenon involving the spiritual perforation of the heart. Padre Pio later reported that this experience left a physical wound on his left side, and many who examined his wounds noticed a cross-shaped mark about 7.5 centimeters long in this place. On September 20th, 1918, while hearing confessions, Padre Pio again felt the presence of the stigmata on his body. The people around him noticed that the blood from these wounds exuded a scent of flowers or fragrance, a detail that only increased the fascination and veneration around him. Padre Pio's spiritual and mystical impact was so profound that, in 1982, the Vatican granted permission to the Archbishop of Manfredonia to begin a formal investigation into the possibility of his canonization. This investigation culminated in the beatification ceremony, presided over by Pope John Paul II in St. Peter's Square in Rome, which brought together more than 300,000 faithful. During his homily, John Paul II highlighted Padre Pio's stigmata and mystical gifts, reaffirming his holiness and the profound spiritual impact he had on countless lives. This spiritual journey and the mystical signs that marked Padre Pio's life continue to inspire and fascinate devotees around the world, establishing him as a symbol of faith, sacrifice, and divine connection. His life is a powerful testimony to a faith lived in an intense and profound way, marked by extraordinary experiences that defy common understanding and evoke deep respect and admiration. After further analysis of his virtues and the lasting impact of his life and works, Pope John Paul II issued the decree for Padre Pio's canonization a few years after his beatification. In addition to being recognized for his virtues, Padre Pio is also associated with various mystical phenomena and prophecies, including the enigmatic and still debated prophecy of the 3 days of darkness. This prophecy suggests the occurrence of catastrophic events in 2025, raising questions about its veracity and the extent of Padre Pio's prophetic gift. He was known for his ability to predict future events with great accuracy, often surprising those around him with the clarity of his visions. Padre Pio's prophecies for 2025 range from natural disasters to major global upheavals, covering a wide range of topics that provide insights into possible future developments. Many of his followers believe that these predictions are proof of his divine connection and deep spiritual insight, interpreting them as evidence of his holiness and intimate relationship with God. The legend of the 3 days of darkness describes a terrifying period in which darkness will cover the earth for 3 days and 3 nights. During this time, the darkness will be so intense that only candles made of blessed beeswax will be able to provide light. Accounts of this legend mention that, during this period, many tragedies may occur, demons will appear, and those who oppose the church will meet their end. This legend bears similarities to biblical stories, such as the 10 plagues of Egypt, and to the visions of the end of the world in the book of Revelation, where mysterious darkness plays a significant role. It is believed that this legend was described by Padre Pio in a letter to the Haraldsbach Commission, which was chosen by the Vatican. This letter, written between 1949 and 1950, would include several revelations that Jesus supposedly shared with Padre Pio, talking about the 3 days of darkness that would come before the end of the world. These accounts and the intense devotion to Padre Pio continue to inspire and intrigue many, reaffirming his position as a mystical and prophetic figure of great importance. In the instructions given by Padre Pio, He recommended that people prepare for the days of darkness by closing their windows tightly, praying the rosary, reading spiritual books, taking care of their animals, and, most importantly, staying indoors. The prophecy speaks of an extremely cold night, with the wind howling around, followed by a deafening thunderstorm. He advised closing all doors and windows securely, avoiding any contact with people outside the house, kneeling before a crucifix, confessing one's sins, and seeking the protection of the Mother of Jesus. Great importance was attached to repentance and the atonement of sins as essential ways of facing future difficulties. Those who believe in this prophecy claim that following these guidelines will result in divine protection and that normality will be restored with the rising of the sun on the fourth day. Many also believe in the miracles attributed to Padre Pio, including writings he supposedly received directly from Jesus Christ. These texts are considered profound, bringing a sense of urgency and intense spiritual meaning. They are seen not just as simple letters, but as real divine warnings. The letter that Padre Pio is said to have received from Jesus addresses themes of the end of the world, similar to biblical prophecies. He compares the great suffering to come to what happened to Sodom and Gomorrah and warns of an imminent and certain divine judgment. The tone is serious and urgent, conveying a strong message that demands immediate action in the reader's spiritual lives and their conversion. In one of the most moving passages, the message read, my son, I long for the moment when I will once again show the great love of my heart. Pray and do penance for me. Ask others to do the same. For the time is coming when I will visit my unbelieving people for not having taken advantage of the time of my grace. Keep praying so that your enemy has no power over you. These words of warning and spiritual guidance, attributed to Jesus, emphasize the need for preparation, prayer, and penance to face the difficult times predicted in prophecy. They reflect Padre Pio's deep spirituality and his belief in the importance of a devout and repentant life in order to attain divine protection and grace. In addition, the prophecy suggests that during this period there will be a great spiritual purification. Those who have prepared themselves spiritually will be protected, while those who haven't will face great challenges. The faithful are encouraged to use blessed objects, such as holy water and sacred candles, to protect themselves and their homes. The forecast is for a disaster much worse than a war, with many things disappearing. This will be one of the signs of the imminent purification. Preparation includes being ready to live through days of total darkness, which are very close. During these days, people will feel as if they are dead, without eating or drinking. The prophecy of the 3 days of darkness can be understood in different ways, reflecting its impact on people. Some believe that the prophecy literally predicts what will happen in the future, while others interpret it symbolically, as an invitation for spiritual improvement. Regardless of the interpretation, this prophecy attracts the attention of Catholics around the world, bringing with it an air of mystery and fascination. For some, it is a warning of a great catastrophe to come. For others, it is an opportunity for reflection and growth in faith. Either way, the prophecy of the 3 days of darkness is a remarkable example of how mysterious and intriguing Catholic predictions can be. Padre Pio's warning highlights the importance of preparing spiritually to face difficult times. He advises the faithful to keep the faith and seek divine protection through religious practices, such as praying the rosary and using sacred objects. During the dark days, the advice is to stay at home, avoid outside interaction, and focus on spiritual practices such as confession and penance. These recommendations reflect a deep belief in divine intervention and the need for spiritual purification to overcome future challenges. The different reactions to prophecy show how it can serve both as a warning of future events and as a call to spiritual transformation. For Padre Pio's followers, this prophecy is a reminder of the importance of faith and continuous spiritual preparation. The possibility of a great purification challenges the faithful to reflect on their lives and dedicate themselves more intensely to their spiritual journey, seeking to be in harmony with God's will. Thank you for watching this video. Leave your like and subscribe to the Living Hope channel on YouTube. Activate notifications by clicking on the bell to receive other publications.